Hello. Thanks for joining today. We'll just take a look today at a few verses in Luke chapter 7. We'll use a critical edition of the Greek New Testament on the left, as well as an English translation on the right. And I invite those of you to use the version that's easier for you. Let's read. After Jesus had finished teaching the people, he went to Capernaum. In that town, an army officer's servant was sick and about to die. The officer liked this servant very much. And when he heard about Jesus, he sent some Jewish leaders to ask him to come and heal the servant. The leaders went to Jesus and begged him to do something. They said, "This man deserves your help. He loves our nation and even built us a meeting place." So Jesus went with them. When Jesus wasn't far from the house, the officer sent some friends to tell him, "Lord, don't go to any trouble for me. I am not good enough for you to come into my house. And I'm certainly not worthy to come to you. Just say the word, and my servant will get well. I have officers who give orders to me, and I have soldiers who take orders from me. I can say to one of them, 'Go,' and he goes. I can say to another, 'Come,' and he comes. I can say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he will do it." When Jesus heard this, he was so surprised that he turned and said to the crowd following him, "In all of Israel, I've never found anyone with this much faith." The officer's friends returned and found the servant well. And so we have a story of healing, a story of authority, a story about the nature of the kingdom that Jesus has come to bring. A story of the impotency of man to heal himself and solve his own situation. The story of a Gentile who got it. Jesus comes to the officer. I should say, in verse 2, the officer's servant was very sick. And this servant was beloved by the officer. And so when he heard about Jesus, the right and proper thing for him to do was to ask some Jewish leaders for help. That is to say, as a Gentile, he had no standing before Jesus to come and ask him like a fellow Jewish person would. And so the leaders came to Jesus on behalf of this man and asked him to do something. They talked about how good this man is. They talked about his virtues and the love he has for the Jewish nation. So Jesus goes with these friends. The officer finds out about this, and he's troubled. He sends messages. Don't go to the trouble of coming to my house. I am not good enough for you to do it. And he continues, and I'm not worthy to come to you. All that you need to do is to say the word, and my servant will get well. He explains what he means in verse 8. He's a man with authority. He has officers who gives orders to him, and he has soldiers who takes orders from them. So he understands command. He understands orders and authority. And he recognizes in Jesus the superior authority. In verse 9, when Jesus had found this out about this person, he was surprised. And he turned to the crowd and he commended the man. In all of Israel, he says, he's not found anyone with so much faith. And so the servant was healed. What about this officer did Jesus commend? What is this faith that this officer has? And how does he have it in such large measure? Well, the faith appears to be the officer's intellectual understanding of authority, of rank and privilege, just who it is that is the boss, who is the higher and who is the subordinate. And the officer communicates an understanding of the way authority works. But that's not all. He also understands not only about authority in the abstract, but about Jesus' standing. Lord, I am not good enough for you to come into my house. This man understands that Jesus has the high position, the exalted position. He understands that he and Jesus are not on the same level. He understands that there's an authority relationship and that he is the subordinate in that relationship. He understands that he is one of the soldiers who takes orders from Jesus, and not that he's one of the officers who gives orders to Jesus. We find that the kingdom of Christ is fueled by this kind of faith. The actions that the king takes are in some measure driven by this public profession and other professions of faith and trust. Jesus is a king who deserves to be recognized as a king. And when he hears about how this Gentile officer has understood this, he says, in all of Israel, he's never found anyone with such a faith. The officer got it right. And the servant was healed.